Hi YouTube friends, it's just after Christmas, I think it's 28th today, and I've got quite a lot of vegetables left over. I did buy more than I needed, so at the minute what I've got is 2 packets of parsnips, 2 huge turnips, packets of shallots and a broccoli. Lots of carrots and lots of potatoes. I've got some blue Stilton left over from Christmas. So what I'm going to do is prepare the broccoli, and then what I will do, this Stilton cheese has a 24th of January on. When I choose to, I will make a simple chicken stock or vegetable stock base. Add in the broccoli, which I'm going to prepare and freeze for now. Add in the Stilton cheese and some single cream and make a lovely broccoli and Stilton soup with that. So that will be that combination. But by preparing it today, it will not all go to waste in the future. So it's just getting a bit of time together to actually look at what you've got, take a stock of it and see what I can make, even if you're just preparing it and freezing it so that it's fresh later on, otherwise it'll go in the dustbin, won't it? So we've got that, that's what we'll do with that. Now the other things are a little bit harder, because you can think, what should I do with parsnips? Now parsnips are quite sweet, aren't they? So you can make all sorts of things. You can roast them like everybody would do. You can also make crisps out of them, where you will prepare the parsnip and shave them very, very, very thinly. Place them on a baking tray with parchment paper into the oven for about 15 minutes, keep an eye on them, and you have to use your grater on this attachment if you've got it, which is nice. It just like slithers the potato or the vegetable into like a crisp size, and basically put them on a baking sheet in line with parchment paper, sprayed with oil, or you can actually have a pastry brush and brush both sides with a bit of oil and then put them in the oven. As I say, I usually put them in the oven about 195 on a fan oven, and it's usually about 10 to 20 minutes. I have to keep looking at them, obviously don't let them burn, but that's nice. Also, there's a nice recipe for parsnip cake, so you can actually introduce this with some spices into a sponge cake. That's all I would do with the parsnip. There are other parsnip ideas online. So I've got a lovely book called the Constance Spry Cookery Book, which goes back, oh crikey, some years ago. It's a very old book. Let's have a look at the date of it. Anyway, I was looking in here just now for other ideas for parsnip, because we need some, don't we? So it says here for parsnips, boil, drain and cut into slices, then marinate them in French dressing and dip into batter. So that might be quite a good idea to try. I don't know if you've ever made onion bhajis, you know, to make a little fritter to go alongside a meal. It's quite nice, isn't it? So that might be worth doing. Or it says make a stiff puree of parsnips bound with a little egg and well seasoned, and divide into small pieces. Put half a shelled walnut on either side of each piece, then egg and breadcrumb them, and then deep fry them. So that's another idea for a parsnip. With a humble parsnip again, you can actually replace the carrot in a carrot and walnut cake and do it with parsnip instead. So a good recipe for a carrot and walnut cake. They're all over the internet. I use the Fenner Whitting Sauce River Cottage one, which is really, really nice and very moist. And it says here in the recipe that you can just use the same amount of parsnips to carrots. So why not try that? Make a parsnip cake instead of a carrot cake, using up all your parsnips from Christmas. So is it a sweet or is it a turnip? Who knows? I think in Britain we alternate between the two, not really knowing which is which, to be honest with you. But the Swede is very famous in Scotland as well for neeps and crackers. They use a lot, it's very famously popular up there. It's an essential element of the Burns Night celebration, which is traditionally served with a haggis, isn't it? South of the border, Swede was until recently the pre-pumpkin vegetable, hollowed out and carved with faces to make Halloween lanterns, but in Britain now, pumpkins are very, very popular, just like in America. But years ago we used to use the turnip or the swede for that. Ugly maybe, but they're delicious, and they're double croppers as well, so they're good for you definitely. You can carve a novelty face out of them. So what more could you want from a vegetable, really? There's more sort of thickness to them than a pumpkin as well. I mean, a lot of people don't even use the pumpkin, but the swede and turnip you can do, of course. And obviously you mash them up and everything like that. But what can we do with it? We can pickle it, quite good. And as a pasta sauce, you can put it in the pasta sauce as well. Roast it and mash it. Generally most people just do that with the turnip, but there are extra little recipes that are out there that you can do. Turnip and swede are great in soup as well, and I've got a nice recipe for a curried soup which has got turnip in it, and it makes it a nice sort of warming, earthy, filling soup. So I'd make something like that. Now, to preserve it so it doesn't go off, the best thing to do with it is to cut it all up in chunks, and then I put it in the freezer bag and just freeze it. Often a lot of people in the past would blanch their vegetables for a few minutes before they put it in the freezer. If you're making things like soup, I don't really bother. I just chop them all up and put them in the freezer bag so that I've got them, and then I'll utilise them in the soup. It won't matter because you'll be blitzing it up, or it'll be flavoured with strong flavours anyway, so it's just a case of preserving it until you need it. It's great to do that if you actually find a bargain in the supermarket where something is reduced, you know, and it's not been frozen before. Straight into the freezer until you can work out what you want to do with it, but utilising the savings that you get from things that are reduced. So I've gone through everything. The shallots, obviously I was looking for onions, but the shallots were the vegetable that was on offer. Use the shallots just like an onion. It is very, very thin, but the taste is there anyway. So what to do with the shallots? So we've got some shallots that have been obviously stored, and we need to get those used. And shallots can be used just about the same way as you would make onions, really, in any recipe. Their skins draw out the maximum sweetness. So I like to roast them in the skins, and then you actually can draw out the sweetness of that in your stock. You can chop them in quarters, throw them on top of your pizza. You can slice them thinly and marinate in red wine vinegar with a pinch of sugar to add to salads. That's delicious. Or you can just use them as you would normally use them in any other dish, using and omitting the onion for a shallot. Another lovely recipe is to put some butter in a frying pan. Add about 250 grams or a packet of peeled shallots and a couple of rosemary sprigs. And as the shallots start to colour, add 2 tablespoons of sugar, followed by a large glass of red wine and a teaspoon of balsamic vinegar. Cover and simmer for about 20 minutes and finish. Remove your lid, turn on the heat and let it bubble to reduce the liquid until it just forms a colourful glaze on the shallots, and that's like a nice syrupy coated shallot, which is really rich, and that's gorgeous on the side of the chicken. Right, YouTube friends, I've decided I'm going to make a root vegetable curry for tonight's tea using quite a few of those vegetables that we discussed earlier. So I'm going to use some of the shallots, a couple of parsnips, some of the swede, got some onions, a couple of carrots, curry powder, garlic, some olive oil or some just regular oil to start with. I sweat my onions down with my curry powder. I usually use about a tablespoon of curry powder, probably a good heaped teaspoon of cumin, and a heaped teaspoon of either minced garlic or 3 garlic cloves peeled, finely chopped. And I'll put some garam masala in as well, which is usually about half a teaspoon. Then I'll sweat that down in the pan for about 5 to 10 minutes slowly, and obviously making sure that the onions sweat down as well, and you know, go really nice and soft. You need about a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half of oil. I know that seems a lot, but it does help the curry, and obviously you're probably sharing that quantity with a family as well, so you're not all having that amount of oil. After that, you can actually chop and wash your vegetables in chunks. I always put a big squirt, probably about half a tube of tomato puree in as well at that stage, and let that sweat down as well and release all the flavours. And a tin or 2 tins of chopped tomatoes in there as well, and sometimes I'll put half a pint of water in as well. you actually add a chicken stock cube or a vegetable stock cube, and then put your vegetables in. So if you're not using any meat, use nice chunky bits of vegetables. You can use whatever you've got to hand. I'm using today what we were talking about, what's left over. So a few parsnips, lots of turnips, some carrots, and I will actually serve this alongside some onion bhajis that I'll make using more of the shallots and some basmati rice on there as well, and some homemade mango chutney. I managed to get 2 mangoes from the shops recently, and they're on offer, and I will peel those, chop them into cubes, put them in a pan with a tablespoon of sugar and a little water, probably about half a mug full, and then boil it up, let it all condense down into a thick syrup, and then we'll have that on the side. I also have thick yoghurt, either Greek yoghurt or natural yoghurt, a nice thick one, and add half a teaspoon of mint sauce and about 1/10 of a large green cucumber chopped into cubes, and I add in that as well. Sometimes I grate in the cucumber, squeeze the juice out so it's not too runny, and add that in, and we have that alongside the curry or onion bhajis. So I hope you will try this recipe. It's really simple, it's really a using up recipe, a nice winter warming recipe, which I think we need now as well, but it's a good one to use all these up. Lots of carrot recipes out there, so you know, you don't need me to tell you what to do with the carrots. We've got quite a lot of carrots left over, but they do store very well, so long as you store them in a dry, cool place. When they get the moisture, if they're in bags from supermarkets, then they go mouldy very, very quickly. If you buy your carrots loose and not have them in plastic, they do last a lot longer. Get some of the carrots and grate them, and then put them in a freezer bag and freeze them. That's ideal for when you're making carrot cake. And then often what I do is I weigh out the carrots before I put them in the freezer in the amount that I need for my carrot cake recipe. So check on your carrot cake recipe how much you need per cake, and then weigh it out and bag it up accordingly, so you've got portions ready to just take out of the freezer, and you know that that is the correct portion size that you need to make your carrot cake in the future. Okay, so I'll carry on just chopping up my vegetables now. So guys, what we're doing now is get the curry started. So in the pan I've got a good glug of oil and chopped shallots. And then in there I'm going to get my spice. I do put quite a lot of spice in mine. I didn't mention turmeric, but I put a lot of turmeric in anything sort of spice because it's very, very good for you. Curry powder, turmeric, garam masala, cumin, a good thick pinch of black pepper, probably good 2 pinches of black pepper there going in, and then garlic as well. And what we tend to do is we get a lot of garlic, so we chop lots and lots of bulbs of garlic. We try and grow garlic, if not buy lots and lots of them all at once, and have a few hours chopping, blitzing them, popping them in jars, filling it, covering it with olive oil, so we've got garlic puree on the go most of the year, and it saves you just relentlessly chopping. I've grated the parsnip, so I'm going to freeze that in portions so that we can use that instead of carrots in the carrot cake. Freeze that in a moment. I'm just going to get this curry on the go. Try and fry off the powder. You might need to put more oil in it. It's amazing how much it soaks up. Now I'm going to start processing all the carrots that I've got. So I peel those, grate some of them and freeze them for carrot cake, and then peel them and slice them and freeze a lot of them. So just literally pan frying the onions in the curry powder and just cooking off those spices so they don't taste powdery later on. Put these lids back on. You will need them in a bit. I'm going to show you how I make the onion bhajis. Put a couple of stock cubes in there. I tend to buy the low salt stock cubes, organic if possible. Okay, when it's cooked for a few minutes, then you can add your garlic and tomato puree. It's really worth cooking your tomato puree down in the oil before you add any water, because it really brings out the flavour of the tomato. It's a lot more richer. Our dessert's doing our pureed garlic, less if you want, but we love garlic here. It's got some very good antibacterial properties. Very good for you. Just literally let it sit on the top of the onions, the garlic, so it doesn't burn, but the tomato puree, I'm incorporating it more into the oil. Lovely, that's really coming together now like a thick paste, full of tomato and curry powder. The smell of it's lovely, it's cooking off. Let's keep your eye on it from now because it can burn, but if you keep just letting it cook off, it imparts all the richness. Far better than just not cooking it and leaving it and putting water in it. Keep stirring it, keep checking it, make sure that it's not burning and not catching on the bottom. Now I've got all the vegetables all chopped up so that they can withstand, you know, quite a long cooking process. I'm going to add those in to the pan. I like to put a bit of green in as well, so I'll have a look in the freezer. Frozen kale and frozen spinach. Again, ideal just process things, chop them up and put them in the freezer so you've got them. Label them. This one, curly kale that I've chopped up and frozen, so just literally get this chunk of that and just pop it in. I'll just put that in the pan. A tin or two of chopped tomatoes. I'm putting 1 tin of tomatoes because I'm getting low on tomatoes, so I'll put 1 tin of water in there as well. And you've got obviously 2 stock cubes and tomato paste, so it will all mix in together. And that is it really for your base. Simple vegetable curry. So I'm going to cook that off for a good half an hour. I may add some more water to it. I'm going to cover it and just let it bubble away now while I prepare the onion bhaji mix. So I put a lid on it and we'll check that in about a quarter of an hour. I'm going to weigh the parsnips straight into the freezer bag and then we'll freeze them, and I can write the actual weight on the bag so I've got an idea of how much I need. Grated carrots, 250 grams. So that is 500, near enough 500 grams. So I've got 2 portions in that bag. I'll write that now and then I can put that in the freezer. Often I make a batch of several cakes, so put the weight down, popped it in the bag, grated those parsnips, so we'll make some cakes out of that another time and it's not going to waste. And like I said, I got them really reasonable, and if I'd have waited a couple of months and wanted parsnips, they probably would have been over £1 a packet, and then I would have had to pay a lot more money. So it makes sense buying things that are at a good price in season and then preserving them somehow for use when you need them. Right, so we're going to make the onion bhajis to go with the curry, and so I'm going to show you how to make them. Simple recipe. I always make sure that I use a bowl for this that's separate to my mixing bowl, because obviously using curry powder and garlic and strong spices, and you don't want that to impart, however well you wash anything, onto sort of a mixing bowl that you would use for cakes. Simple, but you know. So I use just an everyday plastic bowl for this, and then it's onions and spice and flour and eggs in there. So we're making a simple batter mix and we're adding spices to that, and then we'll add it in the onion, and I add some vinegar in to make it a bit like a tempura batter, so that the end results are a lot better and the crispiness of the batter when it comes out of the oil. So you'll need a large frying wok, half fill it with oil, put it on the heat at the beginning so that it's hot enough when you've actually done the recipe. you'll need an egg, and you'll need flour. I use self-raising flour, curry powder, any spices that you want to put in as well. So you could put curry powder only if you want to, or you could put your cumin and your garam masala and some pepper and a little bit of salt. I know you want some milk, so either dairy milk or oat milk, almond milk, any milk substitute of your choice. Okay, so we've got these shallots I'm trying to get used to. So I've got quite a lot, probably got about 15, so I'm going to chop those finely and then I'm going to add them into the mixture. So I'll start by pouring about 250 grams of self-raising flour, about a good tablespoon of curry powder, half a tablespoon of cumin, tablespoon of turmeric, I would say about 4 pinches of black pepper, and because garam masala is a mixture of everything, I'd probably have 2 teaspoons of garam masala. Mix all that in the pan so it's all combined through the flour. Oh, we need the salt as well, so I put a good amount of salt in, probably about a good half a teaspoon, because it needs to be seasoned well, and mix it all up. It's lovely. And then you want 1 egg cracked in there and some milk. So make a little dip in the middle, crack an egg in there, pour about half a pint of milk in, and mix it in, mix the egg, combine the egg with the milk and start to stir in everything. Half stir it in. Then what you need is some vinegar, and I use some of my homemade apple cider vinegar. I'd say that was about 2 teaspoons, and then we need a bit more milk because it's too thick. So we're going to go in for about a pint in a minute. It just depends on how much flour you've poured in. As you'll have seen, I don't weigh my things, I just do it by eye, but and I think I've done about 350 grams of flour here. So less is more at first. You can always add. If it becomes too runny for you, add more flour. If it's not runny enough, add more milk. Beat it all in, incorporate in the air. I'm not doing anything only with a spoon, but you know. You've got self-raising flour and you've got an egg. That is the consistency you want, so it just literally pours off nicely. Okay, easily. Nice and runny. And that, my friends, is hopefully a great batter. Okay, so you want to chop your onions how small you want. If you've got ordinary onions, you can do them in slices. I've got shallots that I'm using up, but I normally use whole onions. I peel the onion and just slice them up. So the purpose of this is to use what we've got left over. I've got shallots, so I'm just going to peel all these shallots, and then basically you've just got an oval shape onion, haven't you? So you can do anything. You could just chop them in slices or chop them in little bits. I think I will just chop them in half and then chop them in half again. Also, with these leftover broccoli pieces that we have as well, we can put those in this tempura batter, you know, and have a nice broccoli bhaji as well. So what we do is just with the bits of broccoli, you can just put a little bit in. We'll just do a few because my family like the onion bhajis better, but we only do like a little mixture. So I'm going to just try and incorporate that and just put that separate so that we know that it's onion and not broccoli with it, so everyone can pick what they like then. A bit of variety. So again, yeah, that's the beauty of having these vegetables to hand. You can, you know, pick them what you want to put in your veggie mix. So I'll just get those out of the mixture and put them separate so that when I come to frying these, we know which is the broccoli one, because the broccoli has a little bit more moisture in it, I think, than the onion. So it might be a bit wet, so I'd rather do that after I do the onions. So just check on the curry as well, see what that looks like for now. So I'll just show you. Everything's in, it's all coming together, cooking off nicely. Difficult to see at this angle, I'm sorry. Leave that on the hob and we'll get the oil in the wok. Right friends, so we're going to now make the bhaji's. So we've got our mixture full of onions. I put a big round onion as well to bulk it out. And I'm just going to check with a tiny little bit of mixture to see if the oil is hot enough. So just drop a tiny little bit mixture in and see if it fizzes some bubbles up. This is coming up to the top now, but it has taken a while, so it's not hot enough yet. So I'm going to leave that a little bit longer to get hot. As I said, if you put your oil on before you start preparing your onion bhaji mixture, then it should be ready when you are finished preparing your mixture. But just leave it until you know it's hot enough. Also, it's wise to do a tiny little portion like this. Check you've got your salt and your seasoning correct. So that's coming quite nicely now. Right, so this, I'm just checking this now to see if it's got enough seasoning in. So that's risen to the top, so it's obviously cooked. Pop it on some kitchen cloth, dab it for oil, and then I'm going to just break it in half and test it. That is nice. Do about a few at a time. No more than about 3, otherwise they'll just cook too quick. Yeah, I usually do about 3 and then they cook well and don't go cold. The more mixture you put in, the cooler the oil will become, obviously. And that's the bhaji's in the oil cooking. That's an overhead shot of the bhaji's in the oil. They've come to the service. So you fry each side until it crisps up and then turn them over. Fry the other side. As I said, only 3 at a time, because otherwise the batter will cool the oil down too much and then they will go all soggy. Get yourself some kitchen roll. Have yourself a little tin oven dish on the side so that you can put the bhaji's into it. That batter will be so crispy and light. Another. That's a cook's treat. When you're cooking bhaji's, you can have a little bit for tasting purposes, of course. It's nice to make sure that they're alright. Right, so just keep turning them over till they're cooked. What you want to do is have them cooked all through, so you know inside is nice and cooked as well. If you don't leave them enough in the pan, inside will be still sort of soggy, which won't be nice. So you need to keep them in the pan for about 7 to 10 minutes. Allow yourself plenty of time to do this, because a big batch of onion bhaji's can take you up to an hour. And I usually make different curries, vegetarian ones and also with chicken, sometimes with lamb. And this is the cheap, using up your old or overdue vegetables, using what's in your fridge kind of curry. So it's a pretty basic curry, but often it usually takes about an hour to make the curry from scratch, especially when it's a meat one. So in between doing Now I put that on and then I get on with these and get my bhajias on the go. And then what I generally do is I put them on an oven tray and get them in the oven just to keep warm. You need to put your rice on as well. I use a rice cooker for the rice. I'm going back in now with 3 more portions. Just dropping it very slowly into the oil so I don't splash myself. You can go in at the edge. It tends to go around in a circle, find its place. One thing I would really love to know is if anybody has got one of these new sort of Instapot, American Instapots, and what you think about it, because it looks like they do all sorts of things. You can cook and bake and do all sorts of things in it, and even preserve, I think. But I'd love to know your views on that. So if you've got an Instapot, please leave a comment in the box below and give me your views on the Instapot, please. And how much you paid for it, what make it is, and what you think of it. I really appreciate that. There's no uniformity here. It's all organic, rustic cooking. The main thing is it's tasting good, it's using up what we've got left, and it's making a meal out of all the bits that, you know, if we weren't careful we could end up throwing away at the end of the week, or tomorrow, you know, if they were left to go rotting in the fridge. So it's all good. So give your curry a stir, and it's at this point, after about 20 minutes, you can have a little look and see if actually you need any more liquid in there. At the minute it's fine, but in about another 15-20 minutes it'll be bone dry. So what I've done is I've boiled a kettle of water. I'm just going to add about a pint of water to it to carry on the cooking process. Give it a stir through, replace the lid again, and it's fine. Leave it to do its magic. So guys, I've got my mango now, so I'm going to chop that mango up and just prepare a simple, quick mango chutney to go alongside this curry. Must be mindful that we are frying as well while we're doing it, so very careful. I'm just going to peel it and chop it, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do after. Right guys, I'm just going to show you how I make that nice yoghurt dressing as well. So I've got a nice tub of Greek yoghurt, so let's give it a bit of a stir. I'm going to put a little bit in a jam jar, put it in a bowl, if you'd like to do. Okay, so pop it in, don't really need much. And then all you need is literally about half a teaspoon of mint sauce. You can put grated cucumber as well, mix it thoroughly in. If you want to put a bit of salt in, you can do. But it'll just be a nice thick and creamy topping for your curry. I've just roughly chopped mango in a pan, added a splash of chopped chilli, some pepper, a little bit of water. I don't add sugar, though that would help it caramelise. I just like the sweetness of it with the curry. So I'm just chopping it in the pan because I've left it quite loose. Boil it up so it bubbles down. You can put some cardamom pods or coriander seeds in, which always is nice. Taking the lid off the pan so that some of the steam can be evaporated. Just got the broccoli bhajias in the pan, just doing the other side, turn them over, and the meal will be ready very shortly. Right guys, we're going to decant this mango into another jam jar. So I hope you agree this is looking lovely. So here I've got our onion bhajis with the shallots, curry powder, garam masala, turmeric, flour, eggs and milk, and deep fried in a wok. Then we've got the bhajis, so the leftover broccoli in the same mixture fried. And we've got a mango that's been made into some chutney that was left over, Greek yogurt mixed with mint to make a little rata, lovely vegetable curry, so that's all the chopped vegetables that we use, a bit of parsnip and swede and carrots, a little bit of frozen kale, some chicken stock cube, tomato puree and spices and garlic, tinned tomatoes, and then a portion of rice. So thanks for watching. I hope you'll create something out of your leftovers and not let them go to waste, and get freezing those vegetables, looking in the cupboard and the kitchen fridge, using up to make a meal out of all these leftovers, because we don't want to waste food, and we can save ourselves lots of money in the process. Thanks for watching. Hope you like this video. Give it a thumbs up. Hope you subscribe and join me. Please leave comments, as I said before, and it's great to see you, and hopefully you can come along shortly on my next video. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.